Hey everyone, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever the heck you are, whatever you're doing, wherever you're listening, I am super grateful for you. So hey, are you doing any referral selling? Like, are you actually earning referrals? Well, Bob Burg can teach us how to get an endless supply of referrals. Not only to write the book, but he's also got an amazing workshop coming up just down the street from me in Orlando. Now, if you are one of the 7 people that don't know Bob Burg, you are in for a treat today. Bob and I have known each other, gosh, probably almost 20 years now, which is crazy. And what's cool is last year he just got inducted into the Speaker Hall of Fame. And that was really cool. Last year, or no, 2018. So, wow, time really flies. But his book, Endless Referrals, is fantastic. His Go Giver series with John David Mann is amazing. And today, we're going to focus on referral selling. So, Bob, how are you today, buddy?
I'm great. What a nice introduction. Where are you today? Are you speaking at a client event somewhere?
Yeah, so I'm out at Vector Solutions in Rancho Bernardo, California. So yeah, so I've got a little bit of palm tree action going on. I'm sitting in a conference room right now, taking a break so that I can spend some time with you and with the folks that are listening in.
Thank you. Thanks for having me with you.
Totally. So Bob, I got to ask, man. So you wrote the first edition of Endless Referrals quite a long time ago. Is it more or less relevant now than it was when you wrote the book?
I think referral business has always been relevant, and I think successful salespeople have always ended up having a really big referral-based business. I think because I think there are more options these days, and because of social media, there are probably opportunities to connect with people we may never have been able to connect with before. And so it creates an environment where the opportunity for deeper relationships resulting in new business and referrals are there for us. Then it comes down to, the principles that have always been important, utilizing those same principles, but on different media. And sometimes people really don't kind of know how to do that in a way, and it sort of maybe turns people off instead of eliciting a connection.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's totally true. I think that so many people kind of jump the relationship shark with referrals and that, hey, Bob, I've been following you on years. Can you refer me to Johnny Smith? It's like, no, I don't know you or the service you provide. Because I see that all the time, right? We people are Facebook friends or they're digitally intimate and they've never actually had a real conversation. So how do we help? How do we define a referral? Let's start there, Bob. What is a referral? What does that mean to you?
Well, I mean, I think they can be defined in different ways, and there's a certain quality of referral. There are leads, which is sort of giving someone an idea where they may find some business there, which can be helpful, but it's not necessarily something of high quality. There can be referrals in terms of this person may or may not be interested. You can use my name, blah, 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 blah. And that's, again, fine. There are the type of referrals where this person does definitely have a need and desire. I know they're in the market. You can, use my name. And that's of course great. But then there's also the ones in which let me get the two of you together and let him or her know about you first. So that I can make sure that when you meet, everything is already set and, the borrowed influence is there. So, I think like anything else, there are different levels and what we're always looking for, of course, is that top level. Now, that's not to say it's always going to work out that person's going to be able to make the connection first. And that's okay. And this kind of opens up a different door because to me, generally speaking, when I go through the referral gathering process with someone, unless I know this person, this referral source is a true center of influence who, when they reach out to that person will say yes to a meeting only because of that person. And of course, those are golden. That's usually not the case. So, a lot of times someone will say, well, let me talk to so-and-so. And if they're interested, I will. Now, let's assume first a priori that they are going to talk to the person, because we all know how that goes, right? So people have good intent, but they get busy, they have their own life, things fall through the cracks. But let's say they do talk to that person. Now, this person may know they may know how to buy from us, but that doesn't mean they know how to sell for us. And so when they say to this person, hey, I really want you to talk to this guy, Bob Burg. He has this widget that is just a fantastic, and I just invested in it, and well, I am so happy with it. And the person has a very natural objection to something like this, and which this other person either didn't have or it was answered or whatever. And they said, yeah, but what about the so-and-so? Or, of course, well, how much did you pay for it? And it's, when they say the price, it's higher than that. Well, it's higher because the value hasn't been communicated yet. And while it was communicated to this first person, they don't know how to communicate it to the other person. You know what I'm saying? And so what happens is it turns out that it turns into well, you know what? I don't know about right now, but if I ever decide I want to talk to this Berg fellow, I'll let you know. So generally, Phil, I want to be the one that actually contacts the referred prospect.
Yeah, that totally makes sense, right? I want to have control, and I want to be able to frame the conversation and add value before I add volume.
Right, and I want to be able to use this person's name, of course, absolutely. But I want to be able to make the call, because then I can do the introduction. I can ask the proper questions that is going to elicit whether there's something there. I can help this person to be very comfortable with the process, and so forth.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. So you mentioned all the different channels. So, Bill Cates believes that referrals can only be done in person. Like, he'll often say that. And I think digitally now we have an opportunity to be different. Now we can get a referral, even if we don't meet in person, or even if we don't meet like via Zoom, that we can still pass that value forth based on a conversation. But how do we make sure that it isn't scuzzy, right? That it does that you, as the salesperson, that you stay in control of that, Bob?
Well, you do make sure that when you contact this person, however that's been set up to do so, that you do it in a way that, I always talk about, and you've heard me talk about before, always providing the out or the back door. And the out or back door is really an emotional escape path, so that a person never feels pressured or obligated. Because as human beings, one of a very big driver of human nature is our need to be in control of ourselves, right? Autonomy, if you will. And we don't want to feel pressure or locked in. So we always want to let this person know, even when we first meet them. And again, the wording would depend on the situation itself, that this is something that if they are interested in knowing more about, it might even be that so-and-so felt very strongly that you may be interested, but of course that would be up to you, and we would have to determine whether it meets your particular needs. Yeah. So we always want to do this in a way that we frame it as though there's no pressure, because there should never be any pressure, and always so that this person feels as though they have an out. Berg's law of the out, if you will, is that the bigger the out or back door you give a person to take, the less they'll feel the need to take it. So you're not providing that out or back door for them to take it. You're providing it so that they don't feel the need to. Now, of course, if they do feel the need to, then they will, and they should, and what have you.
I think that's interesting, because I feel that a lot of salespeople, they don't want to give an out, right? They want the tie down, right? They want to tie people up and somehow force people or compel them to doing business with them. So you're going the exact opposite way, Bob. You're saying give them a big out. In fact, in your book, Winning Without Intimidation, you use the words, if you could help me, I'd really appreciate it. And if you can't, I totally would understand.
Of course. Sure.
Right. So how do we resolve that, Bob? Can you give me an example of where you gave someone a big out and how that actually resulted in them not taking it instead of taking it?
Well, let's say, for example, someone, has said, Bob, I really don't know if this is something that would be for me, or whether or not it's worth my time looking into it. Okay. And the out might be something like, Mary, while we've been able to help a lot of people with this product, whether or not it's the right fit for you, we simply can't know without exploring deeper and discovering whether it meets your needs. So please know that if we do have an initial conversation, it's simply for both of us to determine whether or not that's the case. If it does, fantastic. If not, that's fine as well.
Yeah, I think that's so important. I see that so often missed. I see that salespeople trip over that because they really want to tie down. But I agree. We don't even know. If you don't know that you can serve, then why offer the service, right? Instead, offer to explore. That's a commitment that we need to get. But we have then asking the question, would it be okay if we actually explore this a little bit more? Or would it be okay because Bob says this would be a good fit? I'd like to explore to understand if that's indeed the case.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and this is also the reason why I want people to have lots and lots and lots of referrals and new prospects, because when your business is dependent upon any one person saying yes, that puts a lot of pressure on you. It's difficult to have emotional posture when that's the case. I in a sense, I define emotional posture is when you care, but not that much. In other words, you'd prefer this person to be interested, of course. And if they are, fantastic. But if they're not, that's okay. It's not going to interrupt your it's not going to come in the way of your sense of happiness. Now, one way to have that is by having so many people on your list, right? So many people you can call, so many people you can contact, people who through borrowed influence and borrowed trust, vicarious experience, already, you're 9 steps ahead of the game in that 10-step game. And when you've got that, now you really don't have to concern yourself with whether any one person's interested, because if they're not, you can always move on to someone else. And to that degree that you're not attached to the outcome, that's actually the degree that the outcome is going to be more in your favor, because that other person can sense when it's that important to you.
And that commission draft.
Yeah.
Right. So that's funny. So when you talk about endless referrals, you're really talking about the goal then is to get an endless supply of that, so that then everyone is not a desperation call, right? Not everything has to be a close. You just close then the right people. Is that what you're talking about when you say endless referrals, Bob?
Yeah, because when I say endless, I mean it continues to go on and on. Well, why doesn't? Because let's say you have X amount of referrals from any one customer, and other customers and other customers and other customers, and you've got these referrals. Now, some of these referrals are not going to turn into appointments. Some of these referrals are going to turn into appointments, but not sales. Other ones are going to turn into sales. Now, of those that turn into sales, when you do this, following my endless referral system, what happens is a lot of those people are going to refer you to others. And that's going to keep happening with all these different people. Now, as that happens, some of these people you call are not going to be interested. Some you'll get to see, but they're not going to buy. Others will buy. And many of those will refer you to, you know what I'm saying? And that's how it goes on and on and on and on, because you're continuing to add. And, what you want to do is get to the point where everyone in your list is an A-list or B-list referral, and eventually get to the point where they're all A-list referrals. And when that's the case, as my friend Rick Hill used to say, a great prospecting mentor of mine, Rick Hill, he used to say, when that's the point, you'll still have problems in your life, but they won't be financial.
Yeah, that's where we all want to go, is to that good problem to have there when they're not financial problems. So, Bob, what about giving referrals? I mean, how do we give a better referral? Because I know that I do my best to connect people in my network, but sometimes I kind of flub that up. So how do we do that better? How do we make sure that we give better referrals?
Well, I think one way is to really know what the best kind of referrals are for that person. So, for example, let's say this networking partner of yours is a financial advisor, and they work really with only high net investors. Obviously, you'd want to make sure before you refer them to someone that this person's a high net investor. Now, what you also want to do is, to the degree that you can, is to edify this person. Edify this person, edify the financial advisor to this other person. Okay. And, obviously very truthful, of course, but you wouldn't be giving this person a referral if you didn't feel that way about them. But make sure that this other person, this referred prospect, really understands that you're introducing them to someone special. And by the same token, really edify the prospective customer or client to the person to whom you're providing the referral, this financial advisor, because to the degree that you can have both of them feeling really good about each other before they even meet, that's the degree that the best outcome is probably going to take place.
Yeah, absolutely. So the more you can elevate that person, edify them, and make them be the valuable person that they are, and you can make that personal connection, you can share from your heart instead of, hey, here's somebody that I met at a networking event. Exactly. You're going to stand a much better chance of that conversion, and they're much more open to take the call, because what I find often is the challenge is that people make introductions and you're like looking around like, why did they introduce me? Right. There's nothing there.
You got all the time. Those are the very generic, introductions. It's also, to me, it's kind of a faux pas in a way when someone does that online and they just introduce two people to one another just because they think they should know each other. And what we've got to realize is different people want to meet different ways. So we might think, but I'm adding great value to their lives. Well, but not to the person who doesn't want to be introduced that way. So, what I like to do is I always ask permission first from the person who is the potential customer, if you will. Okay. I'd love to introduce, I'd love to have somebody contact you who is a blah, 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 just a terrific person, very successful. They do business in such a way that it would be congruent with how you like to, and so forth. Would you mind if I had them, again, either call you or would you mind if I made a mutual email introduction? I would never do it first without your permission. Best, don't feel obligated to. I just think this would be a great, whatever. And the person writes back and says, yes. Now I'm going to let the other person know that I'm doing that. And then I'm going to, send them both a good edifying introduction, let each of them know what the other person does, what I admire about you. And it doesn't have to be it shouldn't be a long one. It takes a few lines and that's it. And then let the two of them, take it from there.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So Bob, how much time, if we've got a 50-hour sales week, how much time should we spend on referrals?
In terms of the development of the prospect of them.
Yep.
I think that's one of those things that when we're always looking to, of course, drum up new business. To me, the prospecting aspect never stops. It shouldn't ever stop. But to the degree that you're building up this referral business, you begin prospecting within your referral market. You know what I'm saying? And that's where you want to get. Now, when you can be spending your time there, that's what I call the rainbow, because you think about a big, beautiful, multicolored rainbow starts over here, stretches across the sky. At the end of that rainbow is that proverbial pot of gold. That pot of gold is where the prospects are who are, or the chances are very good that they're qualified prospects. They need, they want, they desire what you offer, and they can afford it. And so when that's the case, you want to invest a lot of your time, as much time as you can, prospecting within your referral network.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. The more you can prospect in a target-rich environment that is full of people that actually want what you need and can afford it, the better your chances are of closing. It's really pretty simple, right? That's not even math. That's just common sense, right? The more that I can talk to people who need what I want and can afford it, totally gives them an opportunity more to buy. And if then you pass that trust through, now it's almost a slam dunk, right?
Yeah, well, and that's the thing about referrals, the benefits of working with referral-based prospects. There's probably hundreds, but I think they come down to four. One is referral-based prospects are easier to set the appointment with. Obviously, you're going in on borrowed influence. Benefit number two of a referred prospect, price is generally less of an issue. Now, that doesn't mean it's a non-issue or not an issue. We always have to justify it and create where they see value here while the price is here. But again, and you were saying, as you were saying, it's target rich. So these people are those who already kind of see the value, or again, the borrowed influence of the person who referred you. So you can go in rather than trying to or having to sell on low price like the others who they don't already know about, you go in there being able to sell on high value. Remember, when you sell on low price, you're a commodity. When you sell on high value, you're a resource. And, unless your last name is Walmart or Amazon.com, you don't want to make low price your unique selling proposition, right? The benefit number 3 of a referred prospect is it's simply easier to complete the transaction or close the sale. This makes intuitive sense, and it's a function of borrowed trust, or what I call vicarious experience. No, this person has never done business with you before, but someone who they know, like, and trust has said, this person's the one who'll take care of you. This one has a great product service. The service afterwards is amazing. Or this is a person who puts your interest first. This is the right? So it just makes it so much easier. Referred prospects will buy faster. They'll buy more. That's germane to what you sell. And then the 4th benefit of a referred prospect is they're already of the mindset that that's how you do business, because that's how they met you. So to them, you meet people through referral. You sell on high value rather than low price. You complete the transaction, and then as a natural part of the process, you are referred to others. So as long as you understand and go through the process correctly, then the chances are excellent you're going to receive more and more referrals.
Yeah. Wow. 4 awesome benefits that certainly will boost our bottom line, certainly will boost our business, certainly will help us add even more value to the world, which I really like. And one of your quotes that you and John David Mann say in The Go-Giver is that money's an echo of value. It's the thunder to value's lightning. So, Bob, talk about that a little bit, because a lot of salespeople say that they're motivated by money. What does that really mean, and how is that more of an outcome, and how do we shift that mindset?
Yeah, well, here's the thing, Phil, and this is when people say, Bob, I understand this go-giver stuff, focus on the other person, put them before the money, and that's great when you've got all the money and you're already successful and don't need the business, but right now I need to feed my family. And the false premise there, Phil, is that selling through a focus on yourself and to focus on the money is actually the most successful way to sell. Well, here's the thing, okay? Nobody is going to buy from you because you have a quota to meet. They're not going to buy from you because you need the money. And they're not even going to buy from you because you're a really nice person who believes in what you do. They're only going to buy from you because they believe they will be better off by doing so than by not doing so. And in a free market-based economy, when I say free market, I simply mean no one is forced to do business with anyone else. In a free market-based economy, that's the only reason why anyone should buy from you or from me or from anyone else. The good news about this is that salesperson who understands that shifting your focus from yourself, off of yourself, and onto that other person is not only a more pleasant way of selling, it is the most financially profitable way to sell as well. So, that's really what it's all about. Even if you're doing it for selfish reasons, right? Enlightened self-interest, if you will, understand that if you're focused on yourself and the money, it's going to come across on some level to that person. And you're probably not doing all that you need to do to communicate value if your focus is on a commission. But when your focus is on discovering what this person needs, what they want, what they desire, how you're helping them in their life, how you're helping them overcome a challenge or make their life better, or whatever it happens to be through your product or service, when you understand that, you're going to take the actions that are going to be more congruent with that. And that person is going to trust you, and that person's going to want to do business with you.
Wow. That just makes so much sense, Bob. There's so much there that we could unpack, but unfortunately we don't have a ton of time left. So let's talk about this, Bob. Sounds like I need a system in order to do this, right? This is not accidental, certainly is on purpose. And it needs to be, there's probably a whole lot more about referrals that we need. And so so we can buy your book, right? We can get Endless Referrals, but we'd have to self-teach us. And so you created a new workshop that you have coming out in January, right? Not new. I mean, you kind of done this before, right? But really new and enhanced and even better in Orlando, January 24th and 25th, called Endless Referrals, the Go-Giver Way. So talk to us a little bit about that, Bob, and what people can expect to learn there. Because if I was in town, I would be there.
Yeah,
I just happened to be out of town, so I was planning to come.
You're going to be speaking for one of your clients, and you're doing exactly what you're supposed to be doing. And
that's right.
It's going to be a 2-day workshop, and rather than me and my big mouth up there speaking, it's to the audience, it's going to be a very hands-on, back and forth, working together type of program. And we're going to go through your business and your referral business, and we're going to create the referral plan for you for this year. And you mentioned about a system. Yeah, it's a full system. It's the Endless Referrals system. And what is a system? It's the process of predictably achieving a goal based on a logical and specific set of how-to principles. In other words, the key is predictability. If it's been proven that by doing A, you'll get the desired result of B, then you know that all you need to do is A, and you'll get the desired result of B. Well, this weekend, that 2 days is going to be about A. Okay. And so again, it's going to be very hands-on. It's going to be back and forth. And by the time you leave those 2 days, your system is going to be in place and it will be ready for you to utilize.
Wow. That's fantastic. So there's so much there that folks can get. So if they want to know about that, they can go to endlessreferrals.com. We had a couple folks chime in. Terry Brock sends his best today. Yeah, absolutely. And so did Tim Son.
Hey, Tim. Tim.
Yeah. So always fun to see some friends that chime in. So the website, folks, is endlessreferrals.com. Should definitely check that out and check out Bob's workshop. It's in Orlando. It's just 2 days. Small investment for that. And Bob, I have to tell you, I look at this. I see that you have a Pindars package. So talk to me a little bit about that, because that sounds pretty exciting.
Yeah, well, it is, and Pindar, of course, is named after the main mentor in the book, and that's just going to be a little bit more access with Kathy, my business partner and strategist, and me, where it's going to include lunch, it's going to include limo pickup, it's going to include free night hotel, the free nights in the hotel, a couple of strategic planning sessions. So there's more to it. So I would just say when people go to the site to just scroll down and see which package works best for them. I did want to tell you, Phil, that there's only going to be 25, 30 people at the most. Because again, we want this to be a very small, intimate group. So, again, it's really not going to be it's not a presentation. We're not even calling it a seminar. That's why we're calling it a workshop.
Yeah, absolutely. Fantastic. So the website, folks, it's scrolling on the bottom there, endlessreferrals.com. This has been Bob Burg. He is a guru when it comes to generating those endless referrals and teaches the Go-Giver Way, which is really the most selfish way that you can sell, because you're adding more value. It'll definitely generate your bottom line. It'll help you grow your business, help you get those endless referrals that you need. So Bob, it's been an absolute pleasure. If people want to hang out with you on the Twitters, are you hanging out on Twitter these days, Bob?
I am on the Twitters. I am all over those internets.
Absolutely. So always enjoy your interactions, Bob. I hope this is going to be a great workshop for so many, because I really believe, again, folks, if I was in town, I would absolutely be there with you. So that means you got an extra spot, because I'm not stealing one. You should definitely check it out, folks. So thank you so much, Brother Bob. I appreciate you, man.
Brother Phil, thank you. I always appreciate you.
Absolutely. So go check it out, folks. If you get an opportunity, you absolutely want to learn more from Bob Burg. You want to go to Endless Referrals in Orlando, the end of January, 24, 25, and check it out. Hope you got some great referral selling. Have a great day. Thanks so much, everyone.